part of networking, and I'll get into it in a minute, is meeting people, it's building relationships, and I like to talk. So for me, that's easy. But for some, it's a little bit more of a challenge to get out of the comfort zone. Um, and anyway, yeah, I can see. Okay, making sure I can see who is there. Anyway, there's no slides to block, I guess, so that'll work. Anyway, the other part we'll get into in a minute is bartering and trading and that sort of thing. And that's something my family's done for years. We called it horse trading when I was a kid. We didn't call it bartering. And in fact, so much my parents met at an auction. So that's just how much it's a part of who we are. But I'm going to get into this introduction to networking in the homestead community. Now, the definition of networking within the homesteading context, what I've got is mutual support, problem solving, and resource access. So it's who to get it from, where to get it, what do you need when you're in a pinch, that type of thing. It's where networking comes in. Now, networking at its core is really just meeting people, talking to people, getting to know them. And if you'll start with a relationship first and start talking to them and get to know the person, make a connection that way, then it goes a lot further. Now, in the corporate world and in other worlds, they'll have whole big events where it's just a room full of people and they're just talking and meeting each other, exchanging business cards and that type of thing. Well, within the homesteading world, it's here at the events like this. It's online, on Facebook, or if you watch YouTube in those places and those social media groups, right? But there's nothing that replaces face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, and being able to sit there. Now, a big part of networking within homesteading also happens within your own community. And that's where it starts, is right around your own house or in your own, where you live. And it's going from being unknown to being a known and trusted person. Now, I just recently moved it's almost a year ago, to a community I'd never lived in. There was one or two people I knew just from incidental contact, but I essentially knew nobody. And so I had to begin to start processing through who these people were. First place I started was the local convenience store. And there was a lady there. Her name's Miss Pat. She's been in that community forever. She grew up there as home. She was in the school system for years. Everybody knows this lady. Well, she has a convenience store, but it has a grill. Well, that's where the old timers meet every morning for breakfast. And we call it the Spit and Whittle Club because that's, I don't know what their hour. I figure they probably worked for an hour or two before I ever see them there, but, they're there. But it's where you can glean a lot of information. It's where you can get a lot of people that you get to know and start becoming a known person within the community. They find out where you live, whose property you bought or moved on to, that kind of thing, because a lot of them have lived there for eons, and that's just how you do it. So that's the thing, being known, because when you need something, and a lot of times that's when we call somebody, is when we need something. If they don't know you, you're out, and not going too far down the political, the world conditions and the way they are right now, but in the event of, I don't care if it's hurricane, natural disaster, or some other things like 2020, who you know around you and what your community is around you is going to go a long way to not being. Now, it's about building relationships. We have a YouTube channel, and like a lot of YouTubers, we've set out to try to build that channel. That's part of it, not so much for monetary, but just to be able to get what we do out. Well, a piece of advice was given to us that, hey, take the time to build a relationship first. Then we'll do business. Let's get to know each other. Well, that's networking at its core. Now, we're going to go over some platforms. We're going to review some of the roles of networking platforms, local and global, that have been able to allow the homesteading movement to flourish beyond years ago. Yeah, there's a few young kids. There's some younger. Us older folks, a little while ago might be 15 years. So for me, 15 years ago, 15 years ago, first person I ever met that said, "Yeah, I'm a homesteader." I'm like, "You're a what?" I didn't know. I knew what Homesteading Act and I knew the history, but really didn't understand that that was something people were doing as a lifestyle in today's world. So he kind of explained a little, and I'm like, okay. And then I watched some YouTube channels, and yeah, okay. But it wasn't until 2020 that I really began to kind of start looking for something different. We had bought up our land in 19, but the need for it really emphasized itself. And so it's been a 5-year journey, and I just moved up there, and I'm still not even close. But that's a different thing. But it's through these platforms that we're able to get in contact, because when you're doing your thing by yourself, that's exactly how it feels. That you're by yourself, isolated on your piece of property or in your house or at your day-to-day routine, and you feel alone. Well, the networking within that, using the social platforms, and we'll get into, can not only help you get to know more people, but if you happen to have a product, if you're raising animals, you're selling things, you're crafting, whatever it is, not only does your circle expand, but it can even blow. When we'll get into globally, where you can reach around the world, thanks to technology that we have today. That when I was coming, we didn't have computers, so it was people didn't even travel for them. My granny's house was 18 miles away, and you'd have thought that was a day's journey to go there. That's what it felt like for a kid. But so first thing first, connecting with fellow homesteaders and online communities. Um, Now, of course, Facebook is the most common. It's hard to find somebody that doesn't have a Facebook profile anymore. They're out there. They do exist. I have met them. So using Facebook, of course, a lot of people, there are forums like in my town where I live, there's a community page on Facebook. And people who live in that area, generalized or have family, they're on it all the time. And it'll be, hey, I need this. Do you know who? Hey, I seen this. Do you know who this was? It was an accident. Hey, your dog's on my property, whatever. I mean, but that's that first stage around that community of being able to communicate back and forth, and building that online community. Now, there's special things related to homesteading. There's social media groups that are dedicated solely to a homesteading group. I know like Texoma has one that's not too far from here. And there's other little community groups that are on it that's all about homesteading. Homesteaders of America is one of the biggest, the original, that's out of Virginia, but they're nationwide. And that's just one more example of a group that focuses solely for the homesteader. Now, of course, forums, I'm finding are disappearing in the sense of the traditional sense of what we used to call a forum, the old sending emails and sending little dots before, internet was so wide, before the social media blew up. Now, Reddit's, I don't know, you got your own opinion about Reddit's. I'm not a fan, but Reddit's is out there, but they have homesteading subreddits. So there's a lot of information that flows. We've discovered recently that even on X, formerly known as Twitter, there's homesteading groups on X. So again, that's one place where you can meet other homesteaders that you can share advice, share things with. I knew it was going to happen. Tried to charge that on the way down here, but we'll make it through. And if not, I'll grab the other device. And then, of course, the Facebook groups. And then there's dedicated. One forum that is out there is Homesteading Today. So you can look that up. It's Homesteading. It is one forum that's out there that just shares information. And I don't know if y'all been on, these forum type blogs where somebody asks a question and 5 people answer it, or it starts a back and forth, and those chains stay out there for years. I use them for automotive more than I do anything. How do I fix this on my truck? So that's where I go. Now, one thing I will say, and I preach in church sometimes as well, and I've told my people at my church and in my men's groups and things like this, and I've told my kids this. When it comes to social medias and it comes to being out there in the social network world, not all business is show business. So there's things you got to be guarded about with your information and with your personal life, because unfortunately we do live in the world that we live in, and there are those out here who would take advantage of it. There's those out there who would exploit it, and to be honest with you, there's tons of hate out there. So, and we did not have any idea how much hate was towards homesteading until we started getting out in the socials and seeing some of the negative comments that are out there. So again, not all your business is show business. And for those who may have YouTube channels or Facebook, it gets a challenging balance between what do you share and what do you don't. So just kind of a cautionary thing that I tell people. Now, the best thing to use these platforms for is advice, How did I do this? Product recommendation, what's something you've used that works? And troubleshooting, just simply trying to figure out, I've got this problem. Did anybody else have this problem? Now that's a broader scope of it, but of course, blogs, YouTube channels, podcasts. We started out as a podcast. We don't pod much anymore. It's pretty much YouTube and Facebook and X. Follow influencers and content creators who document their journeys. That's another place you can learn from, of course. And many of y'all know this. You're probably already following, if you're like us, you're following a bunch already. And so, when you get to know them. Now, something that when it comes to socials, a friend of ours, and I won't say his name because he's here in the building, and I don't want y'all to go attack him, but he calls them Pinterest, whatever. They put on their pictures, or they put they put the best foot forward. It's like with Facebook. You see everybody's best. You don't usually see the grit behind homesteading. You don't see the dirt and the mud and the poop and everything else that goes on with taking care of animals or raising a garden, getting down and actually the hard work that's behind it. So keep in mind when you're following somebody, find somebody. If you like the entertainment aspect, there's plenty of that out there, and I'm not knocking on it because I watch some of it too. But the people that are doing the how-tos, that are actually showing you useful information that you can take and put practical application into your homestead. Now, we're going to move into kind of more or less what I'm going to call the heart of this, what this is about as far as networking. And that's skill and resource exchange. Now, we'll get to more there. We're going to start with bartering systems. And first and foremost, it's the homesteader's lifeline. Your neighbors around you, your community, and then the community at large, because it's a way to, it's an act of exchanging goods or services without using money. Now, we just recently talked with Joel Salatin. Many of y'all may know who he is. May have heard of the guy. I don't know. But anyway, maybe. But we were talking with Joel, and he shared something with us that was really quite interesting. They've got Polyface Farm, and he's been in this business for decades now. Him and his wife, the vast majority of their life as a farmer and as a couple, cash-wise, they have lived below the poverty line. Now, they're like every other farmer I've ever met. Tons of stuff, no cash. So trading and bartering and knowing what your neighbor has and exchanging those types of things is essential. It is a lifeline. It's the only way they survive because there's not always just enough cash to go buy. And as somebody like myself who has a regular job and, works, well, I go buy everything. But I go back to I've got a tractor and I bought it new because I needed what a new one had. But I don't have a single new implement on my property. Every one of them are used implements. They're still working. They're still good. So why go pay 3 times as much for a new one when I can buy a used one on Marketplace and save a ton of money? Not to mention, and this is one of my favorite things about bartering and buying that way, it's a great way to beat Uncle Sam because there ain't no taxes on that. Now, IRS, don't come get me. But that's just the beauty of bartering, and that's the beauty of, yes, see, California out there. All right. You get a chance to talk to David Toming, ask him about California. He can tell you some pretty good stuff. He just moved out from out there a few years ago. But and they, as he says, they escaped in the middle of the night and came to America. But anyway, now I talked about horse trading. I said we grew up doing it. I've got an uncle that is probably the king of it, a guy that I know that I don't know how much he's ever paid cash for. I mean, this guy trades, and I've traded off with him on most of my life as from teenage up. And I'm 52 now, and I can think of one time and one time only that I ever felt like I came out on the winning end of a deal. He usually could slick me up pretty good on a trade, but I learned from him, and I learned how to do that and how to negotiate that. Now, we'll get more into that. With bartering, it needs to be one of the core principles of homesteading, particularly rooted in self-sufficiency and sustainability. Because again, when the banks close and box stores run out of everything, bartering and your neighbor is how it's going to happen. Now, my brother used to talk about parallel economy, which is just using means like bartering outside of the normal channels of supply. But our friend Joel said he called it a parallel universe. Do everything that way. So take that for what it is, but it does need to be a core thing, and it needs to be something that we focus on and teach more of. Of course, the benefits, you get to save your cash that you do have for things that you need the cash for, that you can't just barter for, or can't grow, or can't raise. It saves money. That's the number one thing. It saves money. And it can also, skills and time. If you got somebody that has a particular skill and you need that skill and you trade for it, you just enhanced your homestead, you enhanced your pocketbook, you enhanced your life by trading out for those things. Does build a stronger sense of community when you know who you're trading with, you're doing business around your community. The number one thing is it builds trust. And, as I said earlier, when people know you and you know people, you've got that when things go south. Right now, hurricanes hitting the southeast corner there, Alabama and all them. Be in prayer for those folks, because it's bad. From what I seen this morning, it was 4.5 million out of electricity or something like that. It's bad down there. So when those things happen, who do you go to? Who do you turn to? It's those people you've made relationships with. Now, for example, just from goods, exchanging eggs for like vegetable, exchanging foods, exchanging firewood for fresh milk or something like that. It's just things you can do. There are organized barter networks that are out there. Your local barter networks, some have formal, farmers markets is honestly where a lot of things happen. And even at events like this, we just talked to a lady out there who makes wood stuff. And she said, cash and card, but she'll also barter. So bring what you got, she'll trade. Well, that's just, right here in this building, an example. And it's stuff that's locally, typically in that case, it's handmade, it's handcrafted, or they've raised it in their own garden. So again, where it came from, what's involved in it. And of course, then there's the online stuff, which Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, those places have usually a free or a barter section in there. And that's what that's for. But there's an app called Sembi or Barter Quest, and those facilitate more global. You can trade with people all over the world on those things. So it can expound out. If you can't find something locally, it gives you resources to reach out beyond your local area. So that's SIMBI or Barter Quest. So those are a couple of apps. Now, something I just learned about in studying for this is something called, to me, it was just trading, but time banks. And basically, somebody comes and helps you on a project, gives their time to you on your project in exchange for later help on their project. And so that's a big thing. Me and my neighbor did it, and I didn't even know it. That's just, I had a driveway he knew I was working on. Next thing I know, he's over there with his tractor putting dirt on my driveway before I had the gravel brought in. Well, then next time he needed something, he was gardening, he was doing stuff. So I go over and I did it for him. And it's just that relationship you build with people around you. It's just a fancy way of dressing it up. Now, one thing that is important about bartering, and this is probably really important, clear terms when you're dealing with somebody. Make sure both parties understand what's being exchanged and what the value of the time and services are. So that way everybody's on the same page, everybody's on the same sheet of music. Now, the other thing, we say this in the military all the time, be flexible, because things change all the time. But be flexible, be open to a variety of exchanges. It may not be what you ever even thought about if you're getting into this. And again, foster the long-term relationship. Do a deal today so you can do more deals tomorrow, kind of situation there. And then, of course, farmers markets continue to network through these events. I was going to do a thing this morning and we didn't get set up where I sit down and I was going to have somebody come up and we'd sit here and talk. And you can see kind of what goes on, but we're a small enough crowd and we're doing that anyway. So now there's the digital platforms. We kind of talked a little bit about marketplace on Facebook and that type of stuff. But there's e-commerce opportunities now for those who have YouTube or even as a homesteader, getting affiliate linkage with things like that. That's another way that you can generate e-commerce. Now, if you've got products or you're making stuff and you want to sell it, Etsy, Shopify, WooCommerce, those are just some of the things that are out there as platforms that you can reach out to a bigger audience than just your local people right there at the farmer's market. I will say this, and me and my wife practice this when it comes to marketplace deals. Safety. Do not meet a new contact alone. So if you're going to meet somebody to make a deal and it's somebody you've never met and you don't have a relationship with, don't go alone. Even as a man, don't go alone, because it's just the world we live in. And unfortunately, people take advantage of that. So that's just a little safety thing. Craigslist, Farm2, of course, Marketplace on Facebook, Craigslist. Those are just places you can sell your products. You can set up bartering and trading. Now, the farmers markets in particular are good with this. Co-ops and stuff put on a lot of things that allow you to do this, to where you can network with local buyers, local suppliers. If there's something that somebody locally has, or if they're a supplier of a particular thing for your homestead, that's a relationship you want to build and develop, because then that can open a resource to you, not only for product you can use, but perhaps even stuff you can partner with to make profit if you're needing to make money. Because one thing I've heard homesteaders say, and I believe it to be true, is you have to have multiple streams of income coming in, multiple ways of making money. And so the more of those relationships with local buyers, local people, the better it is, because again, knowing who's who. We were just talking with Glory Hills Homestead, who will be here tomorrow, in fact, talking about money saving hacks. So if you get a chance, if you're going to be here tomorrow, get a chance to sit in with them on that. They've got some really cool stuff. But one of the things they do, I'll give away one of theirs because it's on our show anyway, so people can watch it. But is they go to their local feed mill and they get the clean out from when they clean, because they have to clean all that stuff out when they run corn and they run that stuff through. They'll get the clean out. Now, it'll be a mix of different corns and stuff, but they use that for feeding their animals and doing that type of stuff versus going down and buying a 100-pound bag of food at the price that is. They can get those clean outs for a fraction of the price and save themselves some money. So that's just one of the ways of working with local businesses. I know they work with local sawmills to get their lumber when they need a project. I'm giving away all their hacks. I don't care. They told us online, so it's there. They go to a box store to get lumber. They've got what they call the purple lumber. Instead of yellow wood, they got the purple lumber. It's stuff that's bent, it's twisted, it didn't sell. You can get it for a fraction of the price. It's just you got to work with what it is. It came out of that special tree. Listen, I found those in the good stack, so I don't know. But I don't know what these trees they grow, but But anyway, no, it's just one way. Now, another thing that's important within technology, using technology to help enhance yourself, is collaborative learning. Now, it's kind of what we're doing here in a sense. Everybody's coming in, but so workshops, courses. You can access expert knowledge, homesteading education platforms. Now, I learned about these, and I looked at them, checked them out. They're legit. Some have free, some are free, some are pay. But Udemy, it's Udemy, or Coursera, it's Coursera, Coursera. They're online learning platforms. And you can go in, don't necessarily get a certificate or a diploma to hang on the wall, but you can take these online classes and learn how to do things or get a skill set. And it costs you, some of them are free, like I said, and you can get the knowledge. Doesn't matter if you got a piece of paper on the wall. You learn how to do what you needed to do to enhance your business, to enhance your homestead, and just learn a skill. I mean, there's plenty of that. Skillshare is another one that's out there for learning actual skills. So people put the videos, kind of like YouTube. Everybody likes to go to YouTube, watch, learn how to, because I do it. I'm quick with it. If I can't remember how to do it or I didn't know, YouTube, I'll get on it. But these are other places. Now, a lot of your regional co-ops and your extensions will offer classes and stuff as well, places you can go. That's just picking up learning and getting hands-on, because you can read books and you can watch videos, but there's nothing like being able to have a human instructor, human person there talking to you and showing you, and maybe even letting you walk through and put your hands on it to actually learn how to do these skills. And now, I don't think we got it pulled off. It was one of the things that Chris was working on for here, but homestead swap meets, or even just swap meets in general, but particularly homestead in a place like this, or, any one of the expos or farmers markets where you can do swapping. I mean, that's really what it is. Now, I know she was wanting to do livestock exchange and stuff. I don't know if they got that set up. I don't know if anybody even brought any. So, I mean, that's just examples, and most everybody, if they live in Oklahoma, in this area of the world, and it's actually growing, which the farmers markets are a huge place to meet these people and do this and set that up on a local level. We're starting to see a lot more farm to direct stores where you can go. They've got farmers that work with, of course, CSAs and that type of thing. But the more things you can get set up locally, the better. And hey, if it's not in your area, be that person and set that up. But again, it goes about being known. Now, of course, attending events like this puts you in contact with, dozens, hundreds of people that are in the same world, but also maybe do different things and you can learn from. And we've talked about all the socials. Now, one thing that works from a networking that helps the community and helps yourself, things like community gardens, co-ops, things like that. You can collect, even shared resources. I do it all the time. The box blade that's sitting on the back of my tractor belongs to my buddy. Saved me $700 going to buy one. If he needs something from me, vice versa. So it's saving money by doing things like that. Now, this is one. Now, you can use the digital social to facilitate these types of events. This is something that I hadn't thought about when it comes to a bigger project, and especially if you've got several people in the project, and that's crowdsourcing. Apps like Kickstarter and that kind of thing that for a shared project or a large community project where you can get funds in, because we all know this stuff costs money. No matter how many ways you do it, it costs something. When it comes to a build or a project, you need a barn, you need a whatever, they need it, you're going to share it with 2 or 3 people, that kind of thing. So again, there's no limit to what you can think of that there's not a need for out there, or there's not an online resource to find, or in-person events. And I really, like I said, there's nothing beats a handshake and a deal. I did a property deal back last year. It was a $70,000 property deal. It wasn't even my property. I was doing it for our church. It was a $70,000 property deal. That entire property deal for 4 months was on a handshake. And it worked out. It went through, but it wasn't no pre-agreement contract and, we're going to do this and that. It was 2 guys sitting there having a conversation, reaching an agreement, shaking hands. That's the world we used to live in where I grew up, where a handshake meant something, and we need to get back to that. And the only way that happens is in face-to-face contact. And so with networking, I've talked about all these online platforms. These little doodads right here, computer at the touch of your hands, travel around the world in seconds. It's opened up the door to so many people. Events like this a few years ago would have been unheard of. Even if the event was happening, you had to be in the circle to know about it. Now this entire operation was all on Facebook and YouTube, social media. It was built, this entire thing. And people who knew people who knew people who knew people, and that's the essence of networking, is the circles. And as you got your circle around you, and then your community circle, and then your regional circle, and it's the whole world. And so that is networking in its essence. Many of you have probably heard the phrase, it's a who you know world. Well, that is exactly what bartering, what networking, what doing these things within it. It is a who you know world, and that they know you as well. And because I know a lot of people who wouldn't know me if, I know their name, I know who they are, but we don't have a relationship. So it takes building that. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about with this, and it's important because I do see it happening in the homestead community, and it needs to continue, and that is mentorship. Again, our friend Dwayne Hall with Red Feather Farms. Now he's herbal medicine, he's goats, he's a lot of different things he does. But he called her an apprentice, is what he called her. But he's got a person that he's mentoring, he's training, he's teaching these things to. Well, that's crucial for us older that have been doing things for a while to teach the younger, or somebody that's wanting to get into this that has never done it before in their life. They have no idea. I'm getting ready to go do something with a pig. All right. I've seen it done, but it's not something I particularly ever got my hands on. Same way, it's learning how to do something by somebody who knows what they're doing. And if it's somebody you build a relationship with, you can spend extended amount of time with them, or they'll come to your place and help you. Now, that's mentorship. We need it to continue the next generation, because there's so many people coming into this. I met some at the Urban Expo. They got a few chickens in the backyard. They got the gateway drug. They got their chickens, So now they're looking for land. It's just contagious. It happens. But they're young. They're in their early 20s. They got a new baby. They're young. They're just getting started, but they see what's going on and they want to be involved. So they come to these places to get information and to learn. Well, that's our torch to carry for those that have been doing this. And I say ours, I mean, in general, the community that have already been here and established. But those mentorships foster community, and that's, really where it's at. Now, there's networks. If you're looking for a mentor yourself about something, there's extension services, of course, like your ag clubs, the 4-H, the FFA. If you're not a part of them, if you don't support them because they're teaching that next generation. And a lot of them are looking for mentors. They're looking for people to come in and contribute and give the information and share. Now, there's online stuff like LinkedIn and the National Young Farmers Coalition that are out there on a bigger scale. Now, this is a platform. There's one, it's formal mentorship programs, but this one here is a platform. It's called WOOF, WWOOF. And it's like worldwide. All right, I should have wrote it down. It's called WOOF. And there's another one called Workway. And what they do, basically, and these people travel the world. I mean, this is a global thing. But you can go to this country and go work on this farm for X amount of time and for free, but you get your room and board put up and everything while you get everything with it, and you get to learn hands-on with a farmer for 3 months or for however long you can stay there. But it's an opportunity for people to go, and they say they get to travel for free because they get paid to go be a farmhand, and learn from a farmer. And then another one's where they're trading their time as a hand in exchange for the knowledge, and that's really what it's about. Now, then there's other things, master gardener programs. I don't know, some of the bigger areas, I know Tulsa, Oklahoma City, places like that, even Fort Smith, where close to where I live, they have the master gardeners, and so people can learn how to garden from these people that have been doing it for, forever. Now, I said that's that. One thing with say mentoring, kind of like bartering, what's the expectation? Be very clear if you're going to get into that. What the expectation from the mentor and the mentee both are, what's going to be going on there. And, what I like about it with the mentoring is the hands-on work and the learning. I learned from my dad how to do a ton of things, but I didn't learn from watching him. I learned from sitting there doing it and him standing over my shoulder telling me what I was doing wrong. But no, listen, I'll share this one. This is a quick story. I used to like to do automotive work. First engine I ever rebuilt was in my dad's truck. Now, I was too small to lift some of those heavy things, so he would do that. But we took it apart, and when it came time to put it back together, I had to tell him where every single thing went. If I couldn't put it there myself, I had to tell him so he could put it. I had to tell him the torque specs on every bolt. I had to do everything. Nothing got done if I didn't tell him. So that was how I learned how to rebuild an engine, was by physically doing it and having to look through the book and find the information and tell him what was to be next. Now, I got down, I had one part left, and I spent 30 minutes racking my brain trying to figure out where that one part went. And I knew it wasn't inside because my dad would have never let me put the entire engine back together without that part. But I couldn't find it. And it was a coil. For those who know cars, it was a coil, and that was in my hand. And I'm like, my brain was locked by then. But I learned a valuable lesson. One, don't quit. But two, I learned how to build an engine by doing. And so, I mean, that's the essence of mentorship anyway, whether it's your dad or whether it's, you're teaching your child, or whether it's a neighbor that's, as I use the word old timer. But anyway, they've been doing things for a while to learn from. That's the essence of it on a local level. But, and hopefully it fosters a relationship. You build out a relationship out of that if you do it. But we're almost at the end. All right. In conclusion, networking, whether through its bartering, Skillshare, mentorship, farmers market, any of those things, it strengthens the community. It makes the community at large. You get the benefit immediately of the relationship. You get the benefit of whatever, if it's a barter or if it's a relationship, but you get the benefit of the relationship. But it strengthens, because now when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I need this, if you don't have it, you probably know who does. And that makes a valuable resource as well. Bartering, we talked about that. It's got to be a lifeline. It's got to be things that we learn how to do so that when the great toilet paper caper happens again and we can't find toilet paper, we know who to go ask. I hope we don't get back there again. That one's still just it's been, what is this, 24? So it's been 4 years, 4.5 years, and I still scratch my head over that one. That's, of all the things that happened, that's messing with my head. But still yet, you know where to get things. You can trade. Your people in your community know you. And of course, if you have the opportunity to mentor somebody, that just helps further the cause. And also, if you want to be mentored by somebody, it helps. Stay connected online, in person, more in person that you can, the better. But stay connected with the community at large. Stay connected with your other homesteaders. You know, be ready to share your knowledge, share what you've learned. And you don't have to have a YouTube channel and show the world unless you want to. But, you know, even in events like this where, you know, people want to share, or at a local class or anything, but be ready to share that. And be the friend you want. That's the best way to treat people. You know, Golden Rule, treat people how you want to be treated. Well, in an essence of this, that's exactly the same thing. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and be the friends you want them to be, and get to know people on a personal level, because the relationship will last far beyond the barter deal or the resource that you need at that time. And, you know, and it's just the best way I can explain it. So stay connected to that. Now, for those of y'all who may have not yet, with Farm2Table Direct Show, we're on Facebook, YouTube, X. I'm an aspiring homesteader. I've got the property. I got to get it fenced. I don't have, other than dogs and cats, I don't have an animal on the property. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. There's wildlife that crosses the property, and we got some fish that my wife won't let me catch out of the pond. But we've got it. And aspiring, so, you know, I'm working on it. And my brother doesn't. But he's made preparations from a different kind of perspective. The point is I'm not going to stand here and pretend to be an expert on how to homestead or how to grow this or how to raise that animal, because I'm still learning and I don't know. But I do know people, and I do know how people connect. And one of the things that we wanted to do was facilitate connections of people, facilitate bringing the experts or bringing people who do know to the community at large, through interviews, through coverage of events like this, that type of thing. Now, mine and my brother's why we do what we do started probably before 2020, but definitely during that time frame, because we were coming along, and like I said, the great toilet paper caper happened, and we're looking around at our country and realizing just how fragile everything was. The supply chain, society at large, just how it was. And we were looking at the things that we saw going on in the world, politically and otherwise, and just felt like we wouldn't be able to look at our grandkids if we didn't stand up and say something. So that's what got us started. And in the process, we discovered the homestead community, came across it, and was welcomed in and invited in and made to be a part of it, and are forever grateful for that. But so our why changed to not just sounding the alarm, because there's people are aware of what's going on, but being able to show more of this right here, what's going on within the homestead community, and introducing the experts to help share that knowledge and help grow the community. So that is the Farm2Table Direct Show and what we do. So we literally are taking networking as big as we can. So it has helped us tremendously in what we do, and we wanted to be able to pass that on to anybody that wants to know the why and the how that you need to do this in order to survive, and not just thrive. And so not survive, thrive. I'll get that right. As a homesteader, as an individual on your own, within your own family and within your own community. We have two hashtags that we use all the time. One is keep it local. So buy local when you can. Some things we understand, it's the world we live in. Amazon delivers. We understand. I use it too. But then also hashtag stronger together. It takes this entire community. It takes everybody. It takes your family, it takes your friends, it takes your neighbors. Because when natural disaster or man-made disaster happens, that community is who you're going to fall back on. And they're going to fall back on you as well. So it's relational, and it is stronger together. So with that, we're running up on it. I'll ask any questions of me from anybody right now. I'll open it up. Okay, I guess that means I did a real good job explaining it, or you're ready to go. But anyway, thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. I hope y'all have a great time here at the Rendezvous, both learning and getting to know people, and go out and spend some of your hard-earned money or trade for some of this stuff that's out here. The vendors are tremendous a part of this. It's what makes it possible. It's the vendors and the sponsors that are out here. So with that, thank you.